It's October 22nd, 2017. You're listening to the Fancy Ramen Podcast, episode 37. I'm Neil.
I'm Cookie.
And I'm Scott.
And today we call you from the internet. No, we're always on the internet, aren't we? Yeah, today we're doing something remote, so the podcast might not be as long as normal. I'm looking at the topic list, and I regret to inform you, listener, that it looks like we're going to open up with anime.
Oh, no.
So buckle up, buckaroo. It's a new season, at least in the anime I want to talk about.
I was going to say, at the top of the list, we have a very recent hit and
kind of indie
surprising
film.
front runner. Yeah, Cowboy Bebop. Now, I haven't heard of this. What is this about?
I bring this up because, Scott, were you not saying that you were introducing this to your girlfriend?
I'm burning through it right now with Sierra. I forgot how much. I mean, I remember this being a real watershed moment and awesome gateway into anime when I first started watching, and seeing it a second time, especially having the presence of mind to remember what little I can from the storyline for Cowboy Bebop, and comparing it to now the much wider array of anime that I've watched after seeing this show, because before I watched Cowboy Bebop, I had maybe seen one or two other anime tops. It's just a masterpiece. I love it. It's so great, and I think such an exemplary piece of work. Every episode is enjoyable. The character writing is amazing. The episodes are very memorable. Now that all I need to do is see the first couple moments, and then a lot of details about the episode normally flashes back. I'm loving it, and it took one or two episodes, and now Sierra's absolutely obsessed. Actually, it really just took until Ein joined the crew. She loves dogs enough that I knew that would be a good enough sell.
I could dig on that. I tried to get Lizzie to watch Cowboy Bebop. She stuck through it with one episode, maybe, and I was like, dude, keep watching.
Yeah, she really does.
I think I'll bring the subject up.
Is it because there are no men dressing up as women? Or
That
no
could be
reverse
it.
harems?
She does like her reverse harems and cross-dressing situations, as Neil learned yesterday. That's her bread and butter.
Did not know. I'm not going to say that I'm not surprised, because I am a little surprised. But you guys have a very diverse taste in anime, so
Yeah. If it's animated and it's slightly Japanese, we'll probably watch it.
yeah.
I'm curious, did you ever watch the director's follow-up? Not like a sequel, but one of his later works named Samurai Champloo?
Oh yeah, I watched Samurai Champloo. Actually, that was maybe the second anime I watched, and so I heard, Cowboy Bebop is from the same, it's a brainchild from the same person, and so I went back to Cowboy Bebop. I think I want Sierra to watch Samurai Champloo after this, but I really do think that she won't like it as much because Cowboy Bebop is probably better than Samurai Champloo.
Well, it's just better in the way that jazz is better than hip-hop. It's just a different genre.
Yeah, that's true. I think I like the music for Samurai Champloo better, for sure. And the style's really cool. But the storytelling and the characters in Cowboy Bebop, I think, are a little bit stronger. Not to say that I don't love Samurai Champloo, but
I'm glad you like it, because in a lot of ways I feel like Cowboy Bebop has a great mesh of style to storytelling, in a similar way that Persona 3, 4, and 5 all are able to bring music into such a big part of the storytelling. Cowboy Bebop's able to do that too, but in a weird way, I'd almost say that Samurai Champloo has a better style.
Yeah, no, I'm not disagreeing there at all. The style, I think Samurai Champloo is more stylistic for sure. The thing that you can say that's strong about both shows is that they really incorporate pretty strong character writing and storytelling with good music and then a really good mesh stylistically. Mugen, right? From Samurai Champloo, one of the main characters. He's a very roguish type who does his fighting similar to like a breakdance, which works really well with the hip hop music vibe. And there's really no way to incorporate, say, jazz as easily stylistically with.
I don't know. Spike is very jazzy in his movement.
He's got good
like going with the flow.
Yeah, that's true. They have an episode where he talks about his fighting style is flowing like water. It's really cool. I just think they're such great examples of not being strong at one particular element so much as being very strong at every element that the show brings in, and also being very diverse too. Cowboy Bebop's mostly serious, but it has these really wonderful little moments of humor that appear that, because they're dispersed enough throughout the show, but they're always they're always good kind of heartwarming jokes or humor for the most part. It seems to have an even stronger impact. I'm always blown away by the storytelling. I have very few things I can compare it to. It's one of my favorite things.
Whereas Samurai Champloo takes on like almost an opposite approach, where you watch the anime and the majority of the time it seems like lighthearted and joking, like comical with some serious parts.
It's totally a reverse. Cowboy Bebop is like 70% seriousness, 30% kind of humor, lightheartedness, and it's totally a flip for Samurai Champloo, where like things are a lot sillier and more loose in general, but there are some very like heavy topics that appear just as much.
Oh yeah, human trafficking and whatnot.
The episode regarding the burning weed fields.
Yes. Oh my God, that's my favorite one. And the gatekeepers journal entries about it. I really
don't
do
remember
like that.
What happens, but that night everyone passed.
Or they have some really great stuff. They have their baseball episode, which I think is one of my favorites as well, where they play the Yankees.
Especially considering like baseball is super huge in Japan now.
Exactly. They're both great shows. Like we can talk about modern anime and what's going on in this season, or we can just keep referring back to the classics.
So I do have a question for you then, referring back to the classic of Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah.
I remember hearing rumblings about a couple of months ago, and I confirmed it via the internet
thing.
Mm-hmm. So
yeah, I've heard about that too.
So do you have faith, considering the last live action anime that happens was God, what was that name of that show?
Death Note?
Death Note.
So I really, really strongly hope that if it does make it to the point where there is a live action adaptation, that it gets all of the respect it deserves. Because the issue that we encounter with these every single time is people go, oh, this anime is very popular. Let's cash in on this fad. Just put somebody on it. Like, if the person who's doing the direction and really translating this, interpreting this from the anime to a live action version, I would really appreciate it if it was someone who was already aware of the work, who already respected it, who wanted to treat it with the deference it deserves.
Who didn't just watch the first episode and be like, okay.
Oh, we can do this. We'll do it. It's like a Japanese Firefly.
Yeah, let's just give me the cliff notes. We'll figure it out from there, guys.
Put Joss Whedon on this. It'll be perfect. I don't have that kind of I don't believe that television or film, when it adapts Japanese media, has the integrity that it deserves.
What I will say is that I don't trust this to even be made because the same studio has reportedly taken up the project of making One Piece into a TV series, live action TV series as well.
I did not know about that. That sounds like it's going to be an awful, awful thing.
Yeah, the studio's name is Tomorrow Studios, at least according to Variety.com. But if you go through the list of their announced productions, it's ridiculous. They also have The Crow Girl, The Lizard King, Stinger, The Persuaders, Un-American, Snowpiercer, Highland, Trump, It Happened Here, Hana or Hannah, I don't know what that is, let the right one in, along with Cowboy Bebop and One Piece. Like, that's a lot of shit. And I think it might just be, I don't know. I don't know the TV and film industry that well in terms of like how companies function, but it seems very strange that they have so many productions ongoing and yet to be aired.
That makes sense. So yeah.
Crossing our fingers for a flop.
In the same way that I'm scared of anyone doing a space anime or a space TV show, my biggest fear for that series would be how they would do like every single space battle or like, spaceship battle or dogfight scene or
or dog. Yeah. Who do they cast for Ein? We don't have any like corgis that have really made themselves well known in the acting industry recently.
Air Bud was a golden retriever. Maybe they'll have to just change the right. Did you just say he's dead?
Probably.
Yeah, I mean, Air Bud, those movies definitely came out a long enough time ago that no golden retriever, no matter how healthy, could make it this far.
I never knew. All right, let's put this to rest here. Let's talk about some of the new shows that you're watching, Cookie.
Yeah, so kind of started a few things, both with Lizzie and just by myself. The first one, me and Lizzie actually watched all of these shows have at least 2 episodes out now. First one being Inuyashiki, Last Hero, or Inuyasha and the Last Hero. I think I might have talked about this last week on the show. Basically about a dude, a really old guy who gets hit by a spacecraft, and the aliens are like, oh shit, we killed 2 humans. Let's just replace their bodies and just get the fuck out of Dodge. And they're like, but all we have are weapon units left. Like, fuck it, not our problem. And then they get out of Dodge. So, did I talk about this last week?
I don't think so.
Sweet. Well, you're in for light spoilers and just a general synopsis of what's been going on. Saw the title sequence and was like, oh, cool. It's going to be about this high school kid who ends up becoming an android and gets to live life as a hero, I guess. Nope. Turns out it's about this old guy who's got a really depressing life, who's only like 68 or 58 or some shit like that, but he looks like 97, and he's got stomach cancer and 3 months to live. Then, surprise, he gets hit by a UFO, and apparently him and this teenager get hit by this UFO. We've just now met the teenager in the second episode. He's a total asshat, so I think he's going to be the villain, and the old dude is just this old guy who wants to become a hero, I guess, now, at this point, because he's got the power, and he's an android, and he's freaking out like every 2 seconds. He's really sweaty and bald.
Interesting.
So far, I give it a super big thumbs up. I'm all in. It's got a CGI animation style, unfortunately, but seems interesting. I say at least give it a quick once over. I'm currently watching this on Anime Strike, an Amazon video subscription service. And next up is Yuki Yuna is a Hero.
Whoa, actually, before you continue, it just occurred to me that Inuyashiki, I think, is made by the same people or the same mangaka that wrote Gantz.
Which also makes sense because there's like the second episode, the high school student is talking to one of his friends and they read a lot of shonen manga. They read a lot of Jumps, and one of the characters is like obsessed with Gantz. Like there are like several posters in this room. So that would make sense as to why that shows up.
There's always the possibility that the teenage boy becomes the protagonist eventually then.
Yeah.
I mean, you sound questionable with that claim, but in Gantz, anything and everything happened that you were not expecting. At least the manga was way, way more off the grid.
Okay.
Or off the grid, off the charts.
And they were just talking about the manga of Gantz. So I say at least give it a quick once-over. It's interesting. I like where the story's going so far. But once again, only 2 episodes in. Watched the first episode of Yuki Yuna is a Hero, the Washiomi Sumi chapter, the hero chapter, and it's a prequel. I'm not all that interested in it, I'm gonna give it a hard pass right now. And the next one is Love is Like a Cocktail. Yeah, that's right. I put the Yuki Yuna in there just to say no to it. Love is Like a Cocktail. As you guys know, I like my series about cooking. This one is a short 3-minute episode series about drinks. Just this lady, she works a full job. She comes home and her husband makes her a drink. She can't hold her alcohol. It's 3-minute episodes. They quite literally say, this is what she did during the day. She comes home and she's like, I want alcohol or I want a drink. And her husband makes her a drink. Then he gives you the ratio of what's actually in the drink.
So like, you can make it at home too.
Mm-hmm. And I'm like, this is exactly what I want my cooking animes to be like. Just what's the recipe? What comes in the recipe? How to make. He's like, and you just shake it up to chill and strain. There you go. There's your drink. It's wonderful. Next one up, we watched the first episode. Second episode came out today of Recovery of an MMO Junkie. Basically, a lady gets fired from her job, and then she becomes a NEET. And I think you were talking about something similar to this the other day, Neil. She starts a female character on an MMO that she decides she's going to start playing. No, she starts a male character on an MMO that she decides to start playing. And she kind of falls in love with this female character who we think might end up being a guy later on. But, we'll see where it goes. Because were you talking about something like this?
I
recently?
was, but I've also seen this show as well, and it's pretty good so far. More, like brainless rom-com is what I'm expecting out of it.
Yeah.
But funny.
So not expecting anything crazy. We decided to start watching the Ancient Magus Bride, Magic People. This is season 2 that just started, so we caught up on season 1 first, which was only like 4 episodes. And it's quite literally just a girl telling a story and living with a magus. And they tell you the difference between magic and sorcery, which I thought was interesting.
What is the difference?
Magic is all about miracles and drawing your power from outside, whereas sorcery is like the science of magic. So sorcerers are manipulating the world. They're not causing miracles. They're distorting the views of others in life. But they don't say it in like a sinister way. It's more of just like, this is what the difference is between a sorcerer and a magus.
Okay,
but it basically,
that's not like a common explanation or difference between the two, though, right? I don't know if you're too familiar with like D&D stuff.
Not to my knowledge I don't think that's a common way of thinking about it, but I've never really looked into like the difference between what I think magic and sorcery are. But usually when you're looking at like shows and animes and things, magic does seem to be more, ooh, it's a miracle. Just look at Harry Potter, where they're magicians and they don't really explain the difference.
But Cookie, that's wizardry, Cookie.
Close enough. They're doing magic because usually when I think wizardry, there's like a meaning behind it. So I think of my wizards as closer to sorcerers than magicians.
When I think of wizardry, I think of a boring RPG.
That makes sense. But even RPGs have a mana pool. Just give me a mana pool. Why the fuck does Harry Potter not have a mana pool? Every other thing that mentions like sorcery or wizardry, they're like, oh yeah, and this is the mana pool, basically. Entropy.
I think they hint that they do have a mana pool, but like
where
most spells cost nothing.
Where is their mana pool, Scott?
Avada Kedavra is only 1 MP, man. You can just spam that all day.
Why does Harry just like, and all of a sudden there's just like, oh, there's these super grand spells, but no one does those. And when someone does a super grand spell, he's already in a state of stupidness anyway. Because like, no one seemed tired during the Voldemort old guy fight between the giant water wizard.
Dumbledore?
Yeah, Dumbledore and Voldemort.
The old guy.
Yeah.
The old guy.
No one seemed tired after that fight.
Gandalf? No, you're right, because what it boils down to is basically ignoring like the top tier magicians or wizards. The best wizards are those that can pronounce things properly and swing their wands a specific way.
Exactly.
That's all.
And then they just stop even trying to pronounce things and swinging wands, and they just do the spell.
Then they just have to think it.
The reason why like they have to even have that school to begin with is because they have to deal with all of these cockneyed accent kids that don't know how to speak proper English.
But yeah, so
Snape's just like, Jesus, can't you kids pronounce anything?
it's car, please, and thank you. Car. Anyway.
Get in the car, Harry.
Anyway, I have no idea why we went to this. Oh, but yeah, so Ancient Magus Bride, I like it so far.
Anime discussion aside, Cookie, what else have you been doing this week?
Going to work and playing video games and watching all these animes is pretty much it. So, and I'll definitely be talking about the video games I've been playing, the video games.
And Scott, is your girlfriend doing any better?
She can now walk with the boot.
It's a miracle.
Yes. So she does this like kind of shuffling thing with the boot now, as opposed to recklessly like swinging her body on the crutches.
When she first started when she was taking her first steps again, did you start playing the Foo Fighters song "Learning to Walk Again"?
No.
Nice.
Oh, I mean,
man,
you missed your
she's
chance.
healed up, and I'm a little more mobile because of that, because she has more independence now. The only thing that I wanted to mention is that we were out yesterday and Sierra got to use the motorized cart for shoppers that can't walk at certain stores. And
that sounds like so much fun.
Yeah, I think it was really. She's not a particularly good driver with it though. Like she was cautious, so that's good. But like she moves so slow even with that. And I was just like, I want to sit in this and drive it. Like it's too bad it can't be a 2-seater, so I can just chauffeur her around so we could move through the store quicker. But while I was at the store, I also saw that Baby Driver was on DVD, so I bought that, and I'm gonna watch it this evening. I'm excited.
Goodbye. That's on DVD already?
Yes, that's right.
Like the movie cycle is so fast now.
It really is. But yeah,
that means I can make my watch watch it then. Sweet.
That's it for me. I haven't done much else exciting.
I'm going to actually axe that part until another episode, since I realize we're already 45 minutes in.
Oh yeah, I was wondering, like, it's going to be a short episode, guys. Let's talk about non-game topics for the first 50 minutes.
Yeah, seriously.
My bad, yo. Just quick synopsis. It's a new season, okay? Shut up.
Cookie,
Excited.
if anything, you were extremely expedient with all of these anime. You went through like 5 in maybe 10 minutes. And Neil and I talked about Cowboy Bebop and Samurai Champloo. Some anime that are, you know, pretty fresh off the block, late 90s, early 2000s. And we talked about that for, I think, about 10 minutes alone.
Yeah. Well, so video games. Scott, I want to hear how Final Fantasy 3 or 6 has been going for you on the SNES Classic.
Wait, you don't want to hear how it's been going for me?
Oh, have you also been playing, Cookie?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Of all games I'd expect you to play that were RPGs, it would not be.
It would not be that one, no.
Just because it's totally JRPG. Like it's the pinnacle, in my opinion, of Super Nintendo RPGs, and with it, the downfall of things like random battles. And
it's an extra capital J for the JRPG, especially.
Yeah.
You ready for my thoughts on it?
You didn't.
I played it for about 45 minutes.
Yeah.
I was really bored the entire time. I'm never playing it again.
wow, fuck.
But I did pick it up because you were like talking with Scott about it. And I was like, you know, I've already got the SNES Classic. I might as well at least try this. Oh my God, it's moving so fucking slowly.
I totally think if Cookie were to invest in one of the JRPGs on the Super Nintendo Classic Mini, it should have been Earthbound.
Yeah. Earthbound
that's more
or
Cookie's
Super
speed
Mario
for sure.
RPG.
I love Super Mario RPG. But
Oh, that's
I
right.
will-
He's already played it, so.
Yes. That was actually the only reason I was excited for this system. But now looking at Super Mario RPG, I never want to touch it.
Okay,
But I will try out Earthbound.
Kind of hideous. Earthbound's great, and you don't have to worry about it looking weird like that isometric Super Mario RPG is.
Earthbound's graphics were unapologetically simple to begin with, and because of that, it's still very easy to approach. Like it's acceptable to our standards because it's not like the criteria of fake 3D or 3D has improved so much. Like in Super Mario RPG, the graphics are staggeringly depreciating as time goes on.
The the like longevity of the art will be in comparison to like West of Loathing. Like it'll always be timeless because it's so easy to do.
I can dig it. So Earthbound, I'll add it to my list. So
Cool.
Scott, what's your thoughts on Final Fantasy 3 and or 6? Your choice.
Final Fantasy 3 divided by 6.
What is this? Kingdom Hearts?
Oh yeah, man.
That's all they were doing. They were just practicing for what Kingdom Hearts is going to be in the future.
My thoughts will be brief because my progress in the game so far, I guess would be brief. I only just got my 4th character for my party, or I should say my 4th party member.
Oh, you got Sabin or Mosh.
I got Sabin. I don't like the combat. I think it's bullshit because I have the weight setting turned on, which should, as the game suggests to me, keep enemies from attacking me if I'm using my attack. If I'm like navigating a menu, but that's not the case because I have it on and I'm being attacked. So I'm salty about that.
Okay, I want to explain because this was also something you talked about before with the whole timing on the shell for the first boss. There's always a warm-up time involved, and the reason they do that is so they can justify certain spells taking slightly longer to cast. And also the same thing will apply to certain types of attacks. It's something that like it's very interesting for me to hear your opinion on that because it's something that like I grew up accepting with the active time battle system or ATB system that the Final Fantasy games have been using since Final Fantasy 4, I think. And
so a sort of active battle time or battle timer, I think, was perfected when I played Child of Light, which has a really good way of doing that your attacks and what you select happen at the beginning of your charge up period, and then you select whether it's a very fast to like a very slow attack, and there's some ways that they modify that with Child of Light that you can slow down an opponent. So if they're using a medium speed attack and you're using a slow attack, but you slow them down by like blinding them with your Firefly, then you can still go first and maybe stun them or beat their opportunity.
And just to clarify too, when you say that enemies are still attacking or taking turns when you're in a menu, you're not talking about the initial menu that you get, which is fight, magic, unique skill, item, correct?
I don't know. Actually, I'm not sure if it's the first menu or the second menu.
Because like if you're in the first menu, which has your basic choices, including fight or your regular attack, time still passes there. And the justification is because you still need to be able to arrange what order your characters attack in because of specific skills you will get, or specific strategies, techniques, and skills you'll get as your skill pool increases.
Gotcha. Okay. So,
but like if you were to hit
like
magic or item, it will then freeze time at that point.
Okay.
Except the exception being that if anyone has already lined up to take turns or attack during that portion, they'll still go through that. But no other attacks will hit the queue, if you will. And the only reason why, again, the only other reason why that queue exists is because there are certain abilities that you can use to interrupt those attacks. This isn't like necessarily an implied mechanic, like they never talk about it in a tutorial. Much like a lot of these old games, it's something you just kind of pick up on over time.
Yeah, and that is maybe a major complaint of mine about the gameplay for the game for sure. Is it's past my time in which I'm willing to bother to learn much about it because it's an old game and I just want to experience it and get through it. I'm unable to do so with the ease that I had first expected. So it's just not meeting those expectations in combat and battle. And honestly, that's okay because it's one of the reasons that I think I'm a big proponent of if you are going to play it, it should be on the SNES Classic. Because a lot of these mechanics, you just kind of find them out through trial and error. And one of the most annoying things about these old games is saving the game, grinding up to a boss, and then trying to fight the boss with Sabin and input the commands that you're supposed to, but you don't get told the command input until it's too late and you get killed seconds before you execute it. Because in a normal game, I
completely forgot about that.
I would snap my console over my knee because I've never been that frustrated. But with this, I can at least use the rewind function, go back and say, well, I'm not waiting through all this bullshit to get told what the command is. I remembered it. I'm going to go ahead and input it immediately here. And so I'm not sure I would have been able to beat the next stage of the fight if it weren't for that reset. I don't know how. I tried 2 other ways.
I completely forgot to kind of illustrate this point to Cookie and anyone who hasn't played Final Fantasy. Every character or Final Fantasy 6 or 3 specifically, every character in this game has a unique set of skills. And Sabin's, he's a martial artist, so you basically get to input specific button commands to do specific
put in the cheat
attacks.
codes.
Yeah, basically.
Ooh.
So he has I think he might start with 3 abilities. Can you
I don't know.
I mean,
he's
okay.
only got 1, and you learn about it moments before you get punched to death.
So technically, I could be wrong, but I believe he actually has access to 3 abilities, which after you get him, you can check his skills under the regular character menu. And the 3 abilities are Pummel, Aura Blast, or something like that. It's like a fireball weird thing. And then Suplex, which, by the way, the element of Suplex is now in play.
Nice. And I imagine it'll be very effective.
So the first time I played this game, I remember by myself, because I played it with my older brother a couple times, 2-player, and I played as Sabin usually. And so I knew how to do those 3 skills. And I remember trying to use the fireball, and it's legitimately a fireball for the input commands, to kill the boss, and it never working. And I'm like, what the fuck do I have to do? And so it's
a game point that's scripted, but it's scripted in a way that's so open form. If you don't do it just right, you get screwed.
Yeah, you have to use Pummel or Blitz or whatever the hell. No, his skills are called Pummel. Blitz. That's right. But yeah,
Blitz. That's right.
You have to use the Pummel skill, which is forward, back, forward. And by doing that, even though it deals less damage than the other 2 skills, it just is an immediate kill on the boss.
Yeah, it's a one-hit KO because it's scripted. But games like this that are open-ended enough that you don't know how to do the scripting or its timing is weird, they screw you over.
Yeah.
And so having a rewind, I think, is essential to actually get through those annoying bits. If that happened in a game that I couldn't rewind, probably after the second or third time I tried it, I would have said, this game isn't for me. I'm not playing it.
Oh, nice. I am happy to say that. I think the game takes an interesting turn not too far from here. You have one more town and one more quote-unquote dungeon, if you want to call it that. And then you get to the point where Final Fantasy VI puts itself apart from other games of its era. And
I really appreciate most of the weird scripting in this as far as a storytelling element. When your characters freak out learning for the first time that one of the characters can use magic, it's in the middle of a battle. And it's very cool. I thought it was interesting and funny and fun writing, but I just also happened to encounter a point in which it seemed nearly impossible for me to complete something the way that it was being presented to me. And so I felt like I had to cheat by rewinding and using the Blitz ability early before I was told about it in the game.
magic. What my grandma always told me about.
Oh man, it's I'm gonna make my way through it, but Cookie, you quitting in 45 minutes? I'm sorry you had to play 45 minutes to quit playing the game. Like,
well, I give things a solid try. I'll try and get an hour into a game before I say this is not for me. And as I know that Gran Turismo Sport is not for me because I got 3 races in and was about to fall asleep, this was not for me.
Well, do you have anything to say, Neil, besides I'm sorry?
No, it's like I kind of assumed that would happen. Like I'm not surprised because I experienced maybe the exact same thing when I was watching you play South Park: The Fractured Butthole. So to elaborate a bit, I bounced off of the Stick of Truth in a similar fashion, in that after however many encounters, which aren't necessarily random, but they feel more or less the same thing as a random encounter. It's like you go someplace and then there's an enemy and there's no way to get around the enemy, so it may as well be a random battle.
Yeah.
And after going through so many of them, and the gameplay and specifically that one is so, like, trivial is maybe not the best way to put it, because it has certain elements of it that remind you of Shut Up and Jam Barkley Gaiden, or Super Mario RPG, or any other game that involves certain button presses or prompts to deal damage and to also defend or deter damage. But like with such a simple battle system that ultimately boils down to, are you strong enough to beat the enemy without any sort of counters or weaknesses or things that really actually turn a battle from being hopeless to winnable. It just kind of dragged on me, and the writing was good enough for me to get through most of the game, but at some point I dropped off and just started watching videos from that point on. The Fractured Butthole does have a better battle system, and I'm going to talk mostly about the mechanics as we've seen thus far, since we only got like an hour and a half to 2 hours into the game.
Yeah. But
maybe my biggest issue is that the battles take a little longer than I wish they would last.
Well, I'll tell you what about that. They definitely take a lot less long if you take it off of heroic difficulty for the battles.
Wait, heroic difficulty, is that because you chose the black character?
No, so when we first got into that first fight, they asked me what the difficulty of the fights I was doing, and it was like the normal, heroic, and hardcore, or whatever they called the difficulty scale. So easy, medium, or hard. And I just chose the medium one. When Lizzie started playing it, she actually just chose the easy one. Yeah, they go by much faster. And I actually switched over for my second character to have the easy difficulty as well, because the fighting's okay, but that's not where the bread and butter of the game is.
It's in the writing, entirely in the writing and the style. Like you're not playing this game for a difficulty in it. And if I think you are, like, I think it's because you don't play a whole lot of other games of this nature, and you could find more challenging and more interesting challenges in other SRPGs or JRPGs or whatever it be. My dislike for the battle system, because it's a little more interesting and there's new ways to like minimize. You can really get into the meta of that battle system by just placing your characters in specific ways to avoid the enemies being able to attack you at all. But aside from that, like, it's still kind of just the same old boring-ish system that like I would probably bounce off pretty fast. But everything else about the game is really charming, and albeit as far as we got, it's a little more laid back or like hesitant with its humor, but I think that was the same way with the Stick of Truth as well. Like, it starts off with just some that's funny gags and kind of saves its biggest punches for the midpoint and end of the game.
I unfortunately was not able to get nearly any further since our playthrough, because I'm so used to games saving on servers and having like specific save points that you can just click start and save anywhere. Didn't think to myself, I should probably save this before I turn the game off.
Which is funny, because that game is really, really adamant about making sure you know exactly how to play every single bit of it. But I don't recall it actually telling you
To save?
Yeah, to save or how to save. It might have told you the latter of the two, but I don't recall it ever being like, maybe you should save right now.
Yep. Nope. Mr. Towley never came up and was like, you should save. So when I started the second character, it was like, hey, any kind of unsaved progress this is going to write over your autosave. Any kind of unsaved progress is going to be not saved. And I was like, I'm pretty sure I saved at some point. And then I started my white character, who I'm going to make a female. And yeah, then I thought about it and I clicked start and I was like, there's a save button here. I should probably click on that. You have no save files. Fuck! So we'll see. With the battles that I've done with my white character, though, Neil, you'll be happy to know that I was getting roughly like 12 and 15 cents with the black character, I believe. This white character is making like 50 to 67 cents a battle.
So it's nearly double the amount of money that you're getting from each battle.
Yeah, and I'm thinking that once I reveal that I'm going to be a girl when I go to the school, it'll probably reduce that. I'm hoping, but we'll see.
I kind of hope so too, just to further establish the inequality within society.
Which means I got to play through this game 4 times, Neil. Black male, black female, white male, white female. Let's do this. Oh, and I guess 5 times Jew.
Is that a class again?
I don't know, but I really hope so, because stick of truth, I was walking around as a black Jew. And that just changes everything, because like all the weapons change to I work for the KKK because I was black and Jewish. So it was like Cartman was like, "Oh, well, now we're the KKK. Thanks." I knew we could never truly be friends. But I like it so far from what I've played. Lizzie's played, I think, an hour in. She's gotten Super Craig on her team, and I think she's just about to make it to the Amazing Kite. And I think she likes it so far, but we haven't hit I think the first thing that truly made me and you laugh out loud during the Fractured Butthole playthrough was the Amazing Kite's cousin when he just completely wrecked himself.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping for more of those kind of gags.
Yeah, I am too, because I don't think we really had a good laugh up to that point.
Yeah, everything's just been, poop joke, sweet. Oh, and I guess, did I get to select my kryptonite when you were around?
Yes, you chose...
old people or something? It didn't matter. I did like the fact that, what's his name's kryptonite is the...
Raisins?
Oh God. Yeah, the Raisins girls. Because, when you go downstairs, when they're first, trying to find out what to do, his suggestion is, we should talk to the Raisins girls. Which is why he's in the mosquito. That's why he's in the Raisins. Because that is his kryptonite. That's all he wants to be. He just wants to be around. So I find things like that kind of cool for the second playthrough, I guess.
Which, if you don't know much about South Park lore, the Raisins girls are their equivalent to Hooters girls.
Yep, but they're just raisins.
Yes. Which I guess if you aren't familiar with South Park lore, this whole conversation is probably kind of hard to follow to begin with.
Probably. Either way, I'm enjoying the Fractured Butthole, and we'll continue to play it and give you updates as I go. You probably won't hear much about it next week or anything, but,
And we'll have a video following our progress through the first couple hours of that game up sometime soon.
Sweet. Cuphead.
Yeah, you picked that up?
Yeah, so I was talking to you about it when we went shopping. It's weird to play it with another person. I'm going to stop playing it single player, and so I can actually face a boss without having prior knowledge of what's going to be the strategy with Lizzie. Because in some cases, it's harder with 2 people, but in some cases it's easier. So the thing that I find harder is I'll make stupid mistakes trying to save Lizzie's life or explaining something to her. And it's easier because if I do make a mistake, she can just come and save my life and hopefully we'll beat the game out. But after 5 or 6 attempts or something, I'm just okay, I'm just going to let you die and I'm just going to go ahead and kill this boss now. Thank you. Let's just be real and figure this shit out. So I'm kind of curious as to going up to a boss fresh, because when you're doing the game single player, fighting the boss for the first time, you're trying out individual things and crossing off, this works, this doesn't work. But if you and your patriarch or your person that you're playing with, your partner, you're both trying different things, so you may be crossing off the same thing twice on a list because, oh, you're using just the pea shooter for this one, and I was using the shotgun. And then now they're using the homing missile, and she's using the shotgun. So it's like, oh, we've tried the shotgun twice at this point. That's a waste of time. Type thing. So we'll see. More updates to come. And then Brawlhalla. It just came out. It's a kind of interesting microtransaction-y version of Smash Bros. If you, in the sense of like if you play Smite or League of Legends, because you unlock heroes by using real money or in-game currency. And it takes a lot of wins. Wins, not coming in third place or fifth place or fourth place.
Or second place for that matter.
Or even second place. Takes you coming in first place to get enough gold to like buy a new character. I think off of a win, I was averaging about like 200 golds. The characters, the cheapest one's like 1,200 gold to buy. And off of not a win, you're getting like 50, 100 gold. So a lot of wins. More wins than for like a multiplayer, free-for-all Smash type game. So you've got to be better than everybody else. And the games tend to go, as Neil saw me play a game, either you're completely wrecking or you're completely being wrecked. It's either one person's in positive, one person's got like 1 or 2 points, and the person in fourth place is like -7 or 8 points. Not balanced at all in that regard of let's do this. Have you been playing anything else, Scott Kuhn or Neil?
Not for me.
Nah, I've just been, I started playing FF6 a couple different ways to see what might be the best route to take. And since we already talked about it, I won't go too far into it, but I will just say I really wouldn't recommend getting Final Fantasy VI on Steam. It's not good. But if you are interested, really, if you're not emulating because you're responsible people that follow the law, then the SNES Classic or a Super Nintendo version is probably the best way. But the GBA version has a new dungeon and some other content that was supposedly meant to be in the original. So that might be worth trying out. The only downside is that the GBA hardware cannot play the sound to the same quality that the Super Nintendo could. And I think it might also be a graphical drop in quality as well. But those are, So I might end up playing like a retranslated version just to see what's different nowadays, or just playing it on the Super Nintendo Classic. But so I'll be talking about that with Scott for however as long as he continues playing it.
It's a race to the finish, Neil.
You can. I'm not going to go too far into spoilers and shit like that, but I'll say maybe not as dramatically as Chrono Trigger can be a very short game. But you could actually beeline it to the end of the game pretty fast once you hit a certain point.
Good to know, because that's what I'm going to try and do.
Oh, it becomes very hard. I will say that much, though. So let's go ahead and talk about what's in the hot pot, shall we?
Oh, it doesn't make the same noises. Insert metal hot pot noise here. One day I'm just going to have a recording. I'm just going to play it out loud.
Yeah, why don't we go ahead and just pull a mic up to a hot pot one of these days?
Have you guys ever
dangerous.
Had a hot pot before, actually?
I haven't had a hot pot, no.
Oh my god, I was having hot pots almost every other day when I was in New York, in Chinatown. So good.
Visceral Games has been shut down by EA. Most notably, this studio was working on a Star Wars title that was going to be linear and story rich, and part of the reason why EA decided to basically redistribute the responsibility of the game was to make sure it was non-linear and could have a lot of replayability, keeping it a title that you could continue to play for years on end.
Like Battlefront 2.
So I've got a question for you then. Why are linear games bad?
I don't think they're bad at all. But EA apparently did not want that to be the case with this particular Star Wars title.
Especially considering now they're going like super linear with their sports games.
You mean specifically with their story modes? Or I don't follow.
Yeah, with their story modes for their sports games. So like they had the Spike Lee joint. Maybe that was them. Maybe that was the other game.
That was 2K. But no, you are right because they did put like a story mode into some of their other sports titles.
FIFA's got their game that you can't even create your character.
Oh yeah, you're playing as like one specific named character, and then all of these other players, they hired a bunch of players to do like press conferences talking about the character and filming said process, yada yada. But Visceral was the studio responsible for the Dead Space series and Battlefield Hardline, to mention a few. I kind of don't necessarily have a huge stake in this. I could appreciate the Dead Space games, but are either of you guys really sad over this passing?
No.
I'm sad over any passing, Neil.
Dead Space series, I played Dead Space 1 and 2. It was Resident Evil in space. I liked it quite a bit. Never played the third one. Probably will never bother to. I believe the only other game I know by them was Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King, back for like the PlayStation 2 and GameCube.
Oh, that was a good game.
That game was amazing, but that's about all I have to mourn. And I haven't played any of those in a long enough time that there's really not too many tears to shed. But yeah, I should agree with Cookie, I guess. Like, you should always mourn. We should always feel a little sad that
a gaming studio gets shut down.
As if it's not EA, then I'm going to feel sad.
But yeah, I did not play the Dead Space series. It looks scary. I played the demo for Dead Space 1, and I shot a thing in its head, and it kept coming at me, so I was like, nope.
They can be scary. Headshots are not the most effective way to deal with some enemies in those games.
What I've learned in life is headshot is the most effective thing. If it's not effective, then no. Stay away from it.
The game is lying. Then you need to get away.
Pretty much.
Super quick anecdote is I remember playing a Dead Space game and having someone like come up behind me while I was playing it on my computer, and they were going to ask me a question, like tap me on the shoulder because I had my headphones on, and a jump scare in Dead Space scared them so bad that they fell over trying to get my attention. And so I've always thought about that. Like, if this game can scare someone that I'm not even aware of without them even hearing any of the audio, that's not too bad for a scare.
And I also really loved the concept with Dead Space in that all of your weapons are actually just
mining tools. And whatnot.
Tools to be used in other actual facilities, and they are reasonably and strangely effective because of those uses.
Yeah, I would say that if listeners haven't played either Dead Space, I honestly would just pick up 2. Like, I thought 2 was really good, a lot of fun, improved in all of the ways that it needed to on Dead Space 1. And really, the story's not that important anyway, so it's not a big deal that you're missing out. You get caught up to speed quick enough.
Save Eva, I guess.
Do you think the story is explained enough while playing Dead Space 2 that you don't lose enjoyment over it?
Yeah, I think so. I think that you pick up on the background of it quick enough. I don't remember if they do like a full-on refresher for people who hadn't played Dead Space or for those who had forgotten the events of Dead Space. But the events of Dead Space were really quite simple as well. So it's not too much of a stretch for people to get up to speed.
Let me guess. The story is Space Rock was found. Space Rock
turned people into weird zombies. You need to like deal with these zombies because they want to eat you, and that's not cool, man.
Save Eva.
You got it.
Perfect. Now everyone's caught up. Go play Dead Space 2.
Next on the list, Sony will be publishing titles on the Nintendo Switch.
What?
Just to establish, though, we're not talking about PlayStation or Sony Interactive. Sony specifically.
So what is Sony then?
Yeah, I need more clarification.
Well, so there are different aspects of a company. Sony specifically, or a subset of Sony, but one not related to PlayStation or Sony Interactive, which Sony Interactive, or whatever the name they're going by now, is the quote-unquote first-party development for PlayStation, and PlayStation being the portion of Sony which is
PlayStation.
Yeah, it exists to support and build the platform that is PlayStation. But Sony is going to be publishing a game, a couple games actually, currently slated for Switch, and I will have to pull those up again.
So, like, when you say not Sony Interactive, whenever I think Sony Interactive, I'm thinking Sony's game publishing / development studios.
Yeah.
Right. I can't tell if you actually already know about this or if you're leading me on to the specific label that's doing it. But it's
just
Sony,
super confused.
It's Sony Music's label, which is now being called Unties.
Wait, Sony Music's label? So we're getting
rhythm games, guys.
I'm fine with
I
this.
actually don't think they're going to be rhythm games, but yeah, sure. so specifically, Sony Music Entertainment is now going to go by the name of Unties, and this actually isn't the first time that like a branch or a portion of Sony started developing or creating games for other consoles. I'm really struggling to remember the first time, but I think it's the studio that eventually became Daybreak. I could be wrong. But Unties in particular, which is formerly Sony Music Entertainment, will be releasing the game Tiny Metal for Switch.
Wait, that's a Sony game?
Yep, or Sony Music Entertainment. Specifically publishing. Again, I don't recall who is actually developing Tiny Metal. Tiny Metal is being developed by Area 35, not to be mistaken for Area 35 Alcoholics Anonymous.
Or Area 35,
Area
the alien place.
The less important alien place.
Tiny Metal looks cute. It looks like it's going to be Advance Wars.
Yeah,
But not
that's
as good.
what it looks like.
Yeah.
But not as good. How dare you?
There's no black hole troops.
That's what you think. They're just going to straight up rip off Advance Wars. That's what I'm going for.
Speaking of ripping things off, did you guys enjoy that Penny Arcade comic that ripped off our idea?
It's not like we're the only people that
I know.
thinking that,
I just really enjoyed seeing that and being like, yeah, Fancy Ramen's on the map.
having your opinion vindicated a bit.
Yeah.
If you have comments, questions, or concerns, or corrections, that was from last week, you can write into podcast@fancyramen.com.
And if you've been enjoying the show, leave a review on Apple Podcast. And I'm going to be honest with you, I kind of cut the recording.
That's okay. I've got this now.
But more importantly, tell a friend and help us grow our audience. I think that's it.
That concludes episode 37. I'm Neil. And that's Scott.
And that was me. That was my cue. Oops. See you next time, guys.
You stay classy, Chicago.